Now we move on into mounted armbar. There's a couple of things that I do differently when I do a mounted armbar, and I'm going to show you how. So guys, anytime you're getting into position, use appropriate transition. I know it rhymes, but you got to make sure that I don't mount ever like this. Okay? Nobody ever mounts like that. But I know sometimes the guys are practicing mounted armbar, they go into mount like this. No. Anytime you're doing anything, you should do it technically correctly like you would if this was for real. So when I mount, this is how I mount. Understand that most opportunities are created in transitions. But also, if you mount technically correctly, it's just another mental and physical repetition of the correct movement rather than stepping over. You just threw away one repetition of that movement. So always, if you're getting into position, always try to use the correct movement. All right, so now I'm going to go for mounted armbar. I'm mounted. How do I get him to bring his arms up? Enrique is slightly stronger than I am, just slightly. How do I get him to move his arms? So one of my favorite attacks is to attack the Ezekiel. With the gi, no gi. Almost the same thing. When you attack an Ezekiel on the guy's neck, his hands come up. They have to, otherwise he's going to get finished. All right? So I want his arms to come up. I don't want him to sit like this. This is my pet peeve, guys. When people defend when they defend themselves like playing dead, you already know how to play dead. So practice and escape. But anytime I have somebody defending well, or I'm afraid that they're going to be entering the legs with kipping and start to go into ashigarami, I want to get their arms up. So very easy to do is with the gi, no gi, just grab your wrist. So look, his arm came up. When his arm comes up, so as it comes up, I move my hand up high so he kind of follows that movement. Now, what I'm going to do is once I get here, I'm going to slide up. That's the side I'm going to slide up. All right? So my hips start to get heavy because I'm moving up his torso. So I don't want to be, right now he feels no weight. So by opening my knees, my hips are very heavy. Now, I'm going to lean towards my right side. The reason is because I'm going to slide my left knee. So you don't want to be doing this because he could just turn and wind up in your guard. So you got to make sure you lean. Now I'm going to slide my knee high. I'm going to pull his head because this is the riskiest part of the whole transition. As I'm moving my right foot up high, don't do this. Again, you take your weight off. So I want to move my right foot in a circle until I can see the bottom of my foot. Now, this is how a lot of people teach mounted armbar. It's good, right? Yes, it is good. But what happens if I screwed something up? What happens if now he's escaping? So I already start to isolate the arm so I don't have to do the Ezekiel, but I'm going to stay on the same side that we did before. So, first thing, I'm leaning over my right upper thigh. My right upper thigh is right where Enrique's belly meets his ribs. It's very difficult for him to breathe, number one. And number two, this is tremendous pressure. I can tell you that when you do this correctly, your training partner wants you to arm lock him because it's a sweet relief from the pressure you're putting on him. I'm walking around probably 157 pounds right now, but I feel like 300. So my foot is driving his arm up and all my weight is in my upper thigh. And then bring this over and I finish mounted. Because if there's a screw up, I can recover. I'm mounted. So if I cannot finish him with the armbar from the top, I'm still mounted. I'm still on top position. Anytime when I go for an armbar from the mount, I don't get off. There's no reason. So I don't want to give him the opportunity to escape. So again, we mount. So this time, I already isolated his arm. All right? If his arms were protecting his neck or his elbows really tight, I go into an Ezekiel, and now I have it. So I have the arm isolation. I open up my knees to make sure I continue to pressure his torso, and then I slide up, lift his head up, and now this is misery for Enrique. Sometimes the guy doesn't let you bring your left leg over. So you don't have to bring it over. You can just bring it in. Another instance where you don't necessarily need to bring the leg over. We're going to go over a scenario where I lose it. And I'm going to show you how you basically follow up. We talked about the follow-up, right? All the time. So what is my backup plan? I can tell you that my backup plan is a lot better when I stay mounted than if I drop off and try to finish the traditional way. So again, if I can isolate, it's very important when you isolate, guys, especially a strong guy, it's going to be hard to use your arm strength. So I just use my torso to isolate that arm. Also, as I'm doing this now, because I'm moving from his hips to his ribs, I open up my knees to make sure the weight stays on him the whole time. Now I start to lean to my right and slide my left leg up. All right? This is, if you lift his head, it's going to be harder for him to defend. Here, he might be able to do something, but if I pull his head, I can make the transition. And I'm actively pushing my legs together. All right? I post. You can post your hand. I personally prefer to post my elbow because if I post my hand, he can go underneath it with his legs. Yeah. If I post my elbow, let's turn so they can see the look on your face. So if I post by his hip, it minimizes movement. I know, look at his face, guys. I'm telling you, when you hit this armbar, the guy's so happy. But let's suppose that somehow I was too loose. I stay on top the whole time. So if you cannot finish the armbar from mount, I have a few very good follow-ups because I'm staying either mounted or top cross side versus the traditional way where basically isolate the arm, pin it to your chest and drop down. That's great. If the armbar works, that's perfect. But if it doesn't, now you're on the bottom. In this case, I stay mounted the whole time. So, again, as I'm mounting, guys, I usually try to isolate the arm already, which I did. This time it's on Enrique's left side, but I'm going to stay with the same side so you guys can see a little bit different angle. So, either it's isolated. If it's not, I will threaten an Ezekiel. And us now, he isolates it for me. All right? Slide my left knee up high. Guys, this is very important. You don't slide symmetrically both knees. I slide one. So my body becomes slanted relative to where Enrique is. All right? Now, let's talk about the grips. Right now, I'm going to have a forearm grip on that arm. Okay? If I isolate, sometimes I isolated. Now it's going to be the armpit grip. I don't necessarily care which one it is because they're both really, really strong. So now this is the critical movement. I lean. I no longer need to hold his head because now I'm stable on top of him. My right elbow goes to his hip, and you can see the misery on Enrique's face. You can finish bringing it over. You can finish with your shin. This, again, fulcrum is somewhere between my hip and my inner thigh. This is a very strong grip. If I have the armpit grip, I would never let it go to the forearm grip. But I just want to show you that even if I don't have that, it's very, very powerful. Now, if Enrique manages to escape, I just scissor my legs and I'm back on top. And this time I might hit him with another submission. But I'm, again, in a very strong form of control. The next chapter is going to be attacking with an armbar from the top, offensive position. This is going to be a little more dynamic. So in some of the chapters, we control our training partner or our opponent, either in the guard, top or cross side, or being mounted. This chapter is going to focus more on opportunistic arm bars from a variety of positions. And there's a lot of similarity between the arm bars and leg locks. Again, the grips, so similarity. How do we control the opponent? Again, we try to control the posture, but sometimes there's opportunistic submissions that we're going to be talking about in this chapter. So if you are good in leg locks, isolating grips also, sometimes under the knee, we put it under our armpit. So there's a lot of similarities in terms of, again, the grips, the angles, and sort of how do you transition into the arm bars. So as I just mentioned, there's a lot of similarities between leg lock entries and arm bar entries. One of them is a backstep. So a lot of times people backstep into the legs from somebody's half guard or full guard. We're going to enter into an arm bar. So the scenario is this: your opponent is sliding in, or you're stepping in to get a pass, and now he starts to wrap your leg. All right. So there's a lot of things he could be doing. So what I usually do in this scenario, I drive my knee forward, and all I'm going to do is just backstep and make sure I scoop up his elbow. My leg is still trapped. That's okay. Sometimes it comes loose, sometimes it's trapped. So there's two problems I have right now. One, my leg is trapped and my angle is very off. So I'm basically parallel to Enrique. I'm not perpendicular where I want to be. So I'm pinching my thighs to make sure he cannot move. He cannot turn to his right or to his left. All right, so my left leg kind of keeps his arm up. There's two things I can do. If he lets go of my leg, I'm going to try to get a more perpendicular angle right off this. The other possibility is if he holds on and he knows he's holding on tight, what I'm going to do is raise my right leg a little bit so there's room, and I swing my left leg in and I hook his hip. So you can see it. This is very important. Now, he cannot, it's going to be very difficult for him to just let go and start to spin out. My left ankle is controlling his right leg. Now, I'm going to lay back. So my angle is not ideal. So how do I cure the deficiency in my angle? Very simply, I control his arm and I go into armpit grip, and this is done. So as we mentioned many a time before, armpit grip is so strong. I just need either to get it in the transition, that grip, or I need enough time for me to just grab with the other hand, just make sure that there's an extension enough, and swing. So it doesn't take very long, it can be very fast. But you need that split second time to either change from forearm grip or joystick grip into the armpit grip, or you get it right in the transition. But that grip can resolve many of your problems when your angling is off. So look at this again. So again, I do this gi or no gi, doesn't matter. So I don't want him to come in on his terms. I'm going to decide. So when I step, I want him to start to lean back. As he's falling back, I place my right hand on the floor and I just make sure I scoop up the arm before I land. Now, I have two problems as I mentioned before. First, he's holding on to my foot. Second, my angle is off. So if he lets go, I just move perpendicular as much as I possibly can and attack with a joystick grip against my left inner thigh. If he doesn't, if he knows, and this is probably the guys will hold on, so you can't get your foot out. Raise your right knee slightly and weave. Make sure you don't lose the connection between your inner thigh and just above his elbow, all right? So raise it, and I just weave my foot in, and I hook by his hip. Now it's going to be very difficult for him to escape. As I'm going down, if I have somebody who's flexible, I'm just going to replace the armpit grip. And notice how I'm flexing my ankles, so he really cannot move. No hands. I will actually use my hands, but again, illustrates the point. This is the grip. So I step in, back step, and now Enrique let it go. In this case, I could not go perpendicular, so I compensate by bringing my shins across. Again, this preserves the fulcrum and the angle that I need. And just to be on the safe side, again, I'm going to switch really quickly into armpit grip. Very, very strong, guys. I know this does not look like an arm lock that many of you are used to, but trust me, I hope you can see Enrique's pain. All right, one more time. Let's do it from the other angle so you can see. Backstep is one of my favorite ways to initiate an armbar. One of the reasons why backstep is so effective, because basically you're changing direction. And you catch your opponent by surprise. You know, if you have a high-level guy, he's not going to be surprised for very long, but it's enough to give you an opening. One of the things that I like to do is, say if I pass, you know, I'm having a hard time passing somebody's guard. When I get to this position, so I'm not quite fully past, if I try to bring my right knee, he's going to keep moving, all right? So when I get to this position, rather than take the long way, I just take the short way. I just drop the wrong knee on the belly. This stops him for a brief second. What I usually do then is pivot, put my hand on the ground, and take a big back step. And then I take stock of the situation. It doesn't matter whether I get both arms, one arm, or no arms. When this happens, I'm hoping that I get two arms. That's the best. But I can deal with any of those scenarios. So right now, I backstep, and I got both of Enrique's arms. What I'm going to do is swim in for an armpit grip because it's easily attainable. And I bring my leg over, and you have very quick arm bar. So again, as I'm getting through his guard, I just bring the wrong knee on the belly. Notice how my left foot is going under his arm to prevent him from trying to turn too much. And then I just take a back step. Oh, I got both arms? Great. I go back in. It doesn't matter if I can get the armpit grip, if it's easily obtainable, but if his hand is closer to my left side, that's not going to be that easily achieved. I just put on a forearm grip. And as we said, if I'm mounted, I stay mounted. Just put my hips forward. So let's look at it again from a different angle. So again, put wrong knee on the belly, back step, and back to forward. Very, very strong arm bar. And very surprising. One more time. So, and I go back forward. That's it, he's done. So, your question might be, what happens if you get only one arm, not both arms? Excellent question. So, again, as I'm backstepping, most likely you're going to get, in this case, his right arm. That is not a problem. What I'm going to do is go under his head and slide my foot through. Now, if I need to, I can lock up a reverse triangle. But since I'm on top, I'd like to stay on top. What I'm going to do is apply the modified Americana we talked in one of the earlier chapters. So I bring his wrist down. My left hand weaves under his arm. Grab my forearm. Bring my left elbow in. And I have a finish. Should he try to come up on top during that transition, I just lock up a reverse triangle and we finish with another Americana. So we'll look at it from a different angle. I backstep. Go under his head. Grab your own shin, guys. Now, I don't have the reverse triangle locked up, but I can if he gets on top very easily. If I stay on top, I'm going to switch to his wrist. Leave my left hand under. Grab figure 4, bring my left elbow in, and apply the pressure. Should he come up during my transition, hold on to my shin, I'll lock it up, and now I can finish with a very strong Americana. Last time, just to see the transition. So again, when I put the wrong knee on the belly, I'm backstepping. I get both arms, it's an arm bar. I get one arm, it's a reverse triangle setup to an arm bar. And then we're gonna go over the third one. So as soon as I get here, I lean forward. So most of my weight is in my hips. I go under his head and grab my own shin. So that way I keep complete control over Enrique the whole time. Right now, the way I'm leaning, he wants to come up. If we were more square, I would attack his arm with a modified Americana. But if he actually used that opportunity to come up on top, I'll lock up a reverse triangle, and then we have very strong Americana. Now we're going to look at the scenario. What happens if I get no arms? So as I'm backstepping, and I get no arms. When that happens, I sit up. I don't want to lean because right now my legs are very light. I lean forward, so most of my weight is in my hips. With the gi, you can apply double collar choke, no gi. He's going to try to dislodge you one way or another. So it doesn't matter. Scissor my legs, and we go into butterfly choke. So I'm going to stay on the same side. So as I'm stepping, backstepping, notice how I'm driving my foot under his armpit. In this case, he weaved. That usually is helpful to isolate at least one arm, but Enrique did a good job swimming under. I backstep, no arms. So I pivot to make sure he feels my whole weight. You know, with the gi, you can basically do a choke. No gi, if I lose it, I scissor my legs over, and then I'm going to finish him butterfly choke. So you can see that no matter if I get both arms, one arm, or no arms, that back step is a very good setup, usually attacking the arm, but you have a few other options as well. So now we're going to go another back step. This time you're on top of cross side. You have a strong opponent that's got good movement on the bottom, and he tries to grab your leg for a single. So you have a couple of choices. You could try to cross face him down, but if he tucked in his head, well, you're gonna have a hard time. Once he gets past perpendicular, you kind of start to lose it. If that were to happen, I try to pancake him down and go into guillotine. But if you act quickly, I backstep and I scoop up his arm. So again, now my biggest problem is I'm not in the angle that I want to be. So by now you guys know how we address that. As I'm extending his arm, I'm getting ready My right hand brings it into the armpit grip. So again, the armpit grip can cure a lot of improper angles. When you're backstepping into these arm locks, you're kind of countering the movement he initiated. And because of the nature, sometimes he actually holds on to one of your legs. Because of that nature, you will not always be able to get that perpendicular position that I'm looking for, that I usually initiate most of the arm bars from. But it's a very easy cure. You just get in position, isolate the arm, and then you can fix it with the armpit grip, even though your angle is way off. All right, so let's look at it again. So on the top, Enrique starts, I just backstep. That's my biggest concern, right? Backstep. I don't worry about the arm. Now I'm going to start to take the arm. As I'm doing this, I know I'm driving my left thigh heavy. It's very important. This is way looser than this. As I'm laying down, my right hand is already getting in position to block his wrist from changing the angle or retracting. I get it under my armpit. And very, very strong finish. So again, it's very important. I tried to hit this before. Here is the latest time I can hit it. If he gets further, what I would do is just get a headlock and try to straighten out my leg to sprawl on him to bring him into my guillotine or anaconda. But if I act quicker, before he gets vertical to the ground, post and backstep. Now I'm going to start to isolate the arm. My right hand is already in position. I just need to keep it there briefly. So my upper body does bulk of the movement. If his hand is deep, I go under. If it's shallower, I just go over. Either way, I get a very strong armpit grip, which allows me to finish the armbar even from a less than ideal angle. Now we're going to go over a very common triangle escape where your opponent postures up in your triangle and tries to escape. In this case, the armbar is the backup plan. The initial plan is the triangle, okay? I'm not going to spend a lot of time because this is not a video about triangles, but I'm going to spend a little bit of time explaining how I triangle people so that way people understand that this is a very viable follow-up plan, the armbar, that it almost always happens if they posture out of it. So we could, as we talked about in the split guard, my number one choice, short arm lock. 2 is triangle. 3 would be omoplata. 4 would be inverted armbar. But right now, I'm going to hit him with a triangle. As I'm triangling him, my number one concern is to keep his posture broken. I accomplish this with 2 things. I grab my own shin and I go under his arm. Once I lock it up, I don't really care what he does with this arm. All right? One of the things that many people teach, and it's not wrong, is to lift him up a little bit to get the arm over to the other side to make the choke tighter. The problem is posture and sort of towards the ceiling. This is number one escape from a triangle. So when I bring my arm across, I'm effectively giving him the escape. So as I mentioned, I'm not necessarily the biggest guy, but if I ever lock somebody up and do this, they're gone. If the guy is 220, 230, he's gone. If I do this to Enrique, he's nowhere near 220, 230, he's gone. So once I lock it up, I don't care if he buries the arm. I don't really care where I will finish from here. All right? So this is done. I can feel this. So he's going to have to put the effort into regaining his posture to try to posture out of it. This is probably the number one escape. So as he's doing it, and he's doing a good job, I don't hit him yet. I wait for him to do the work for me. When he straightens out his arm, I just pivot a little bit and it's done. This is a very, very quick arm lock, but I'm letting him do all the work for me, escaping. So he starts out with broken posture. When his posture is broken, he's vulnerable to the triangle. As he's rising up, okay, the triangle becomes less severe. However, he needs to put his hands on your torso to get that last push. to get a good posture to escape the triangle. So it's going to be hard to arm lock him from here. As long as his hands are on the floor, I'm still choking him. I will wait for him until he has no choice but to get out. Once he brings his hands on your torso, then he will be able to achieve that posture, which allows him to escape the triangle. But also he put his arm, he extended for you and put it from the floor to your torso. So he gave you that angle. All you need to do is bring the other leg over and pivot your hips a little bit. So I'm gonna, if he's here, I'll continue to fight for the triangle. Once he, then done. This is very tight because now he fully extended his arm. Now, what is his back? What is it? What is his defense? To go back down. So if he goes back down, he goes into a triangle. I could do this all day. Triangle, armbar, triangle, armbar, armbar, triangle. You can go back and forth. The defense against a triangle is to get good posture. The defense against arm lock, armbar is generally to compress. So you're using his defensive movement, and he's making big movements. His movements are very big. He's really has to try to extend to escape the triangle. So let's look at it again, guys. It's very, very effective. When you hip out, when you move your hips in that pivoting out, it's very tight and it kicks in very hard, very quickly. So done. Okay. So be careful. I usually stop, like I know exactly how far I gotta go. In this case, the fulcrum is usually your hips or your inner thigh, and the grip is forearm grip. So as soon as he fully extends, I just reinforce where his hand is to stay there, and the arm bar comes on very hard. So go ahead one more time. One of my favorite follow-ups from the triangle that's failing. Done. So the next dual armbar is one of my favorites. All right. When I'm in my guard, Enrique's in my guard rather. I decide to arm drag him, and as I'm dragging him, what I'm looking to do is hunt for his back, and this is where I want to go. But usually, when you hit a well-executed arm drag to the side with the gi, I would use probably these grips. There's a variety of ways you can, no gi, you can use, wrist grip and by the triceps. So there's a lot of different ways to get there. You could always try to strip the grip and transition. So there's going to be some grip fighting. But once I grip fight and I drag Enrique, and what he's going to do, his response is going to be he's going to try to square up to me. So basically what I did is I lost, what he's looking to is to square up and pull his shoulder back. So when he does that counter, I effectively lost the hunt for the back. So when I get here and I feel my opponent squaring up to me, I'll let go of his arm and I let it sink under my right arm. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to pivot and I'm looking to lock up. Again, once I lock up the top lock, I'm looking to either finish him with a gatame tap, but the one I'm really looking for, again, this is analogous to, when you get the grapevine in leg locks, what I'm really looking for is the bottom one. So look how strong. The bottom one is extremely strong. Again, what makes that armbar from the bottom so effective is the fact that I have that armpit grip. And I'm not I could bring my leg over. The problem is this gives him, even if I'm very good at this is a slight opening. Right now, it may happen, may not happen. But if I stay with the top lock, which we saw in one of the earlier chapters, you don't have to always bring the leg over to finish a strong armbar. So again, if he's holding on to my belt, I will strip. I can attack, armbar. Now, in this case, my right hand is not where it wants to be. All right, right arm. I want to have it over his wrist. I want to have it underneath, not on top of my arm. okay? When I'm here, I will attack the Urigatame, which starts to create the angle that I'm looking for. And now I can again finish Urigatame.
Tap.
Or I can finish with the forearm grip.
Tap.
But it becomes, try to retract your arms. It's very difficult. I can sit here for a while. But now it's also easier for me to reload. So even if he keeps it on top of my arm, I remove my arm, it goes down. I raise my hips, which allows it to drop under my arm, and now I arch just so slightly. It's a very, very strong arm lock. Let's look at it one more time. So Enrique is my close guard.
Tap.
And you could always take the top one. The top one, guys, you could try it.
Tap.
If he's super flexible, not going to be the best, but this one
Tap.
will work on anybody. So this sequence is a good follow-up when you hit a good arm drag, but your opponent is squaring up to you to prevent the back take. Fine, that's what he wants. We're going to armbar him instead. So the next double armbar is very similar. It's almost the same. It is pretty much the same as the counter to the can opener. But in this case, it's offensive rather than defensive weapon. So as you know, I like Urigatame, upside down arm lock, very much. It is in this video as well. And when I roll with guys that either know my game or start to feel that I'm hunting for the Urigatame. So all I need is just a little bit of their elbows to flare out, and now I have it. So a lot of times, they start to keep their elbows in way too much. So now they're overcompensating with their defense against Urigatame. So understand, sometimes, even if the guy figures out your game and he's trying to prevent you from doing what you initially intended to be your first attack, he's giving me another opportunity. All right? So when I see this happening, what I'll do is as his elbows are bent, so right now if I open my guard, he'd pass it easily. So I raise my hips and I pull myself in just a little bit. And with the gi, I will grab the sleeves and pull them towards my head. No gi, you can just pull them slightly forward. I don't need a lot. I need just an inch or two. This is all I need. Now I'm going to drop my hips and I bring my feet over his shoulders. Now I will squeeze my thighs together and
Tap.
This is done. So again, this is an offensive double armbar in response to your training partner being really aware of flaring out their elbows just a little bit. This is all I need for Urigatame. So when they feel it, they start to bring their elbows so tight together. So again, right now, there's a gap between Enrique and I. It's about a foot gap. So what I'm doing now is raising my hips and I'm pulling my hips in a little bit tighter. Once I do that, I just pull his wrists towards me a little bit. I need an inch or two, that's all. And I drop my hips again and I bring my legs over his shoulders. Now, try to withdraw. It's very, very difficult. I'm squeezing my thighs in. And then this is done. Again, the angle, we're fully lined up with him. And the grip is going to be the forearm grip. One more time, please. So again, pay attention to my hip movement because a lot of these arm bars are set up with the initial hip movement. If I open my guard now, he's going to be passing. So I'm not going to open my guard right now. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to raise my hips, pull myself in, pull his hands just a little bit, drop my hips, and
Tap.
We're done. So I know this is a very old school sort of armbar attack that a lot of people know. This, I think, is a little bit different entry in a couple of ways. Number one, it's offensive. And number two, it's a very good weapon where people start to be a little too disciplined about keeping their elbows in. I need this much flare out, attack with Egatami. Once they shut it down, they're vulnerable to this. So make sure you set it up properly with the hook movement, which I explained. Now we're gonna go over what I call a throwaway armbar. Before we do that, I know I changed my position. I was on Enrique's right, now I'm on my left. The reason I'm doing that is to make sure you guys are paying attention. So let's look at it. Why do we call it throwaway armbar? So if I'm passing guard and I just shove my opponent's legs to the side, and a lot of times the guy is stiff arming you. What I do is, as I'm trying to put my knee on the belly, I slide my shin all the way up into the armpit and I flex my ankle, and then I just bring the leg over. Now, why I call it throwaway is this. If he retracts, I lose it very easily. But by scissoring my legs, I prevent him from coming up quickly. So as I scissor my legs, realizing that I lost the armbar, he needs to bring his elbow in to get up. So by me scissoring the legs, he's not getting up very quickly, and I just come up and I get the top position. So I'm gonna do it a little fast so you can see. First, I'm gonna hit the armbar. All right, don't drop down fast, guys. On this one, you gotta be very careful, because if you get it, it's fast. So you don't wanna pin it to your chest and arch out, because your training partner might be caught by surprise and not have enough time to tap. So make sure you do this. You give him slack in your forearm grip. So as I'm passing, so I usually try to stay on it. I got the armbar. This is good. Now, this time I'm gonna do this. And again, this time maybe I don't get it, so I'm just gonna scissor my legs. And so he took it away. I scissor my legs, get an underhook, and I'm back in control, maybe hitting it with something else. All right, so again, it's a quick throwaway armbar. If I employ this armbar and I can't finish, I'm almost always stay on top. So one more time, slow, as he's pushing, bringing, I got it. So in this case, I usually use the forearm grip. My angling is slightly off. It's gonna be, I'm aiming for 90 degrees, but because I'm coming at an angle, it's gonna be a little bit more than, it's gonna be probably 130, 120 degrees. The exact degree is not important. What is important is that the foot that is coming in first slides up under his armpit. Forearm grip, guys, give him slack. If you start to fall, so right now I can control the amount of force I apply to Enrique's elbow, but if I lost my base, I start to give him slack, so I don't drop in my back to the ground with the full force, because he might pop your training partner's arm. So if I start to fall off, I will give him slack. If I lose it, I kick my right leg to make sure he cannot come up, retract, and I'm back on top, hitting him with baseball bat choke, whatever you want. There's many follow-ups you can do, but again, it's an easy armbar that you either hit, but if you don't, you're still back on top, usually with him somewhat isolated on the bottom, which allows you to hit him with, bread cutter choke, baseball bat choke, I usually like no-gi baseball bat choke anyways, so that you have a lot of follow-ups, plus you're on top. All right, I'm back on the right side. So the next movement is going to be the arm bar from back control. So when you're on somebody's back, they're more likely to give you an arm bar than they are to give you their back. So usually when I'm on somebody's back, they're not as concerned about the arm as they are about getting choked. The reason my game is geared towards most efficient, the easiest submissions that present themselves. So even if I have the back attack and he's technically and properly defending the back, I'm gonna hit him with an arm bar rather than try to fight for that choke. Because a lot of times when somebody's defending something very technically, you could see Enrique is already putting himself into the armbar. Now you could see there is a reverse cow hand, wrist lock. I don't like to finish people with this. What I'm looking for him to do, which they always will, is straighten out their arm and give me the armbar without a whole lot of fight. I can always, if Enrique tries to, so for example, this is, my leg somewhat fell in as he was defending the back attack. So now he's putting his shoulder into it, right? So right now, if I arch, if you have somebody flexible, there's a good chance they might escape. So what is our answer to that? My right hand is already in place on the wrist. My left hand and left arm weaves in, and I'm going to put, you could see how he responds. I didn't even crank it right now. So he quickly responds to the threat by coming back in because he realizes this just turbocharged the armbar. So again, that armpit grip, it's a great weapon. If you have good arm bars and you just incorporate that one aspect, the armpit grip, this video will be worth your while, because there's so many opportunities where by placing his wrist under our armpit takes the armbar from possibly failing, possibly mediocre, to super strong. So again, I'm attacking Enrique's back. He's doing a good job defending. So he wants to put his head on the ground. So I want to make sure that my leg is not trapped. Now, this is going to be a scramble. So as this is going on, as he's defending his back effectively, my right leg is keep propping him up so he cannot drop unexpectedly. The other thing, what I'm doing is I don't let him bring his elbow down. I keep actively pulling his elbow towards his head to make sure that there's a threat of the arm lock. And as he starts to go down, I bring my head over. Guys, it's okay. I know my legs are very wide, but sometimes, because I cannot cross my ankles in this case, so what I'll do is I use my left foot to control his hips. The effect of this is that my legs are wide, but as you know from this video, is I don't need my hips as a fulcrum. I can use my inner thigh as a fulcrum. So right now I'm trading my hips as a fulcrum for better control on his hip. And again, I start to feel, so Enrique is already putting his shoulder into the attack, which usually allows the guy under the attack to twist around and try to create openings. So when I see that happening, I'm already in place to put the armpit grip on and finish. So let's look at it one more time. So I'm hunting for the choke. Enrique's doing a good job. So I start to pivot. Now, if I fail with the arm lock, you can see that my follow-up is a back triangle. So now I can either finish him with the triangle or triangle armbar combination. He's going nowhere. This is even worse. Again, the armpit grip, extremely powerful. So I'm hunting, he's preventing me. I'm already looking for the perpendicularity. I'm holding him up briefly with my right leg so I can get my angle, bring the leg over, and here we go, armbar. If I need to, sit up. So the fulcrum right now on this one is going to be on my hip, actually on my hip bone. So you have to start to pay attention to, again, angles, your grips, and where the fulcrum is. And what is my follow-up? What is my backup plan? What is my backup plan? What if he tries to escape? It's going to be very difficult. He's giving me his back again. So now this time I took his arm away. You guys see this? I just armbar him with my leg. The fulcrum is my inner thigh, and my grip is between the ankle and the shin. So I have a choke and I have armbar. But anytime you look for arm bars, And even if you don't finish the armbar, by your opponent's reaction, if he feels pain, he will move in a way to alleviate that pain. And many times that will lead you back into either the initial attack or some follow-up attack where you constantly stay on him until you get the quick submission. Guys, thank you very much for watching. I really appreciate the opportunity to help improve your armbar game. As you know, some of you may not know, I am not talented. I put in the work. I do a lot of repetition. If I can do it, anybody can do it. I hope you enjoy this video. And if you have any follow-up questions, I do a monthly troubleshooting on our YouTube channel, which is Silver Fox BJJ. Just go to YouTube, Silver Fox BJJ. It's every month at 10:30 a.m. First Friday of every month, 10:30 a.m. It's live. And it's troubleshooting where the audience gives questions and we answer the questions in live format right then and there. If you guys want to reach us or have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out. You can find me under silverfoxbjj.com, and there's a link to the YouTube channel as well. I want to thank my teachers and my students and Enrique. Thank you very much, and I'll talk to you soon.